You're watching Thorin's YouTube channel. Please seek professional help.
If you ask me what the greatest energy formula of all time is, I'm going to tell you it's simple. It's gamer subs, isn't it? See what I did there? I was playing a pun on the word simple. Because obviously it has the delicious flavours, doesn't taste all chemically and artificial like some of these young prodigies coming through nowadays where they're just made in a lab somewhere, they've already played 15k hours, then they play their first ever game and they're like, I do not think I will feel pressure because it is just game. Like, this guy actually came up, he's more organic in that sense, isn't he? It's the natural flavours. And the thing I actually enjoy about gamer subs is it doesn't actually have a super chemically flavour. Actually, they've done a really good job. They have so many flavour choices and they've dropped many of the ones that weren't that good back in the day. They've done a really good job crafting the particular flavour. So when you have something like strawberry, lemon, actually it has a flavour that is really reminiscent of the real fruit, even though I'm going to go ahead and guess probably no fruit ever touched any gamer subs that became the powder. Also, I don't get that weird jittery feeling, so get 10% off everything on their website using my code Thorin, Thorin, at gamersubs.gg. So obviously, the big news, it's actually one of the biggest blockbusters in years, is not only has s1mple left NAVI, by the way, that in itself could be like, what the? That's insane. But on top of that, he's then been announced as joining BC.Game, which, by the way, for some casual fans of CS listening to this channel, you'll be going, who is BC.Game? I've never heard of that organisation before. Is that even a CS team? Or is that like, is that a different video game or some bizarre org that was just created yesterday? It isn't. But let's start with that first things first. So s1mple did leave NAVI. That was the initial thing. Now, by the way, this is how you know that on some level this was mutually agreed to behind the scenes and NAVI isn't seemingly pissed off at s1mple, because they could have done, and quite frankly in Eastern Europe, I've seen this happen many, many times, they could have just cut the legs out from s1mple and they could have announced like he's leaving and he's transferring to this team. But this is so obvious to me that what they've actually done is done like a legit embargo approach where like they've agreed, like, look, we'll announce initially that he's leaving, and then right after that, I think it was within half an hour, BC.Game gets to be the ones that announce, or s1mple does, that I'm going to BC.Game and this is the way it's going. So actually, the way this is done seems like they've taken care of everyone and this was mutually agreed upon. So the key thing is, first of all, he has left NAVI. Now, if you know how I do my roster move videos, I'll just do this in the same format, even though he wasn't in the lineup of NAVI. So it's not like I'm really saying, should he have been kicked? Because he wasn't really. He's chosen to leave. And based on their tweet, they were certainly considering selling him. And it looks like, if you look at all the messaging for the last, I would say, 1 year, because I think after the season last year, where they had the little dip after they fluked the major, and then they had that one blast finals but got obliterated. I do think people actually thought back then, maybe they should bring s1mple back in, maybe they should kick Immer, who was playing bad at the time. It was in the summer after the player break, he got his shit together and his numbers went up. You could bring him back as aggressive rifler, because obviously s1mple, when he stood in for that Metasport series in Blast Showdown for Falcons, was playing as a rifler. Or you could look at Wonderful. A lot of people have always been down on that guy. I think people are a bit too harsh, but certainly he's never been close to a s1mple, a Donk, or even a Shiro for me. I think when people look at him, they thought maybe he could come back as an AWP. So you looked at NAVI, you thought, if you need a bit more firepower, you've just flicked the major with crazy low numbers on some of your players. And on top, and one of them was Immer, by the way, and you want like a powerful AWPer, which at least in CSGO was a massive boon to your team. It's not as big a deal in CS2 seemingly, then it seemed like you've already got this guy on contract worth megabucks, and if he grinds, surely he'll very quickly be good. So if you have looked ever since that time onwards, NAVI either never addressed the idea s1mple could come back, or I would say they even a little bit indirectly and vaguely messaged like that we're not bringing s1mple back. If you could read between the lines of the things they've said, some of it s1mple himself referenced during this BC.Game transfer, and I will address myself in the past. I think it's been pretty clear that they don't want s1mple back in this NAVI roster, and especially not in an era when they can win without him. I mean, they can't do that right today, but I can see why they think that based on last year's results. Look, we would have all told them they're wrong constantly last year. They did fluke the major, but after that, the same roster got way better and somehow dominated World Counter-Strike without, I think, even a top 5 player in the world. It's nuts that they were able to, nowhere close to a superstar player. So first things first, I've got to do the whole thing, which goes, should NAVI have let this guy go? Or should they have inserted him into their roster? I think that's a consideration you have to ask in this video. So first things first, I'm going to say this. I do think this is the wrong move on NAVI's part. I think the current roster Navi has, even with the Makaze attempted upgrade, I don't think that's enough. Like, first of all, I don't think Makaze is going to be as good as peak JL, Major MVP is the one-off, but you look at the sub, he's still a very good player. He's not going to be as good as him. I'm sorry. That guy was the closer of the year. There's no way the Makaze guy is going to be that, especially not in year one. So already, I don't think he can get back to the level you were last year. And then other players in the team just also don't sometimes look as good as they were last year. Bit's nowhere near the exceptional player he was. Him has been way more up and down. I actually think Wonderful, he's kind of similar, but he's just all right, isn't he? Alexi B's had his own issues. And then the team, their map pool's fallen apart. They've just got a million problems. But I don't look at that and go, oh my God, kick everyone. No, if anything, it's a miracle they were so good last year. But the problem is, if I was their team right now, after the season they just had, basically irrelevant, by the way, never going to win any big tournament, consistently now losing to not just a Vitality, a top tip, they're losing like the top 2, 3, 4 teams potentially consistently. And then also you look at the major and how lackluster that was. Like, they could have won a map against Vitality, but that was Vitality that was sort of like fucking playing themselves into form after just like the quick Swiss stage, right? Like, that was whack. They couldn't close anything out. And if you remember the old Navi, they relied on winning really close games and closing them out and having clutch players and doing like numbers disadvantage. So if you're not going to get any of that, then you've got nothing left. So I do think if you have essentially the ultimate like secret weapon sat on your bench or in your silo, as it were, in terms of s1mple, and you've just seen that at the major, with something like, 2 weeks practice and playing in 2 different lineups, the Skulls standing lineup at Dallas and then the one with actually Rain and the rest of them at the major. If I saw the way he played there, I would certainly consider at least trying out the last few months of his contract and seeing if he can be any good. Because just like with FaZe, there's a world where, like when they beat Mongols and Mouse, there's a world where actually you just win a bunch of games you shouldn't win otherwise. He starts to show some potential. And now you both have an interesting decision. Does he want to stay in Navi? If he grinded to get back up there, is this actually a player you could like pivot the squad around? And does he like quickly put you back in contention where you can fix some other pieces or get your rookie into shape or bring in a third player to the mix, etc., and change the dynamic? So I do think it was the wrong move for them not to. I don't know if they considered it, but they seemingly haven't really thought it's something they would want to do. I do think it's the wrong move to not at least try putting him into the roster. I get why they didn't last year. They were right. I was wrong. Well, I can't know. I can't really know how we would have played, but I doubt they would have made as many finals initially. I think it would have been taking more time and certainly wouldn't have played exactly the same CS. But the issue is there's more nuance here. Like, it's not really a hard black and white, they were wrong. It's more just I suspect they're wrong in the totality of what's going to happen. Like, I think in terms of years, because I'm the esports historian, so I think in 1 year from now, maybe even in 6 months from now, they might look back and go, fuck, that was a mistake actually. We had s1mple and he actually was going to come back and he was going to grind and he already showed potential and we could have had him instead of Wonderful. Fuck, maybe we should have done that. In the same way as I told you, the one thing I was never worried about when s1mple went to FaZe was the idea like, but will he be better than Brokey? Like, were you watching Brokey for the first season of this year? Like, yes. I think he already was at the major. He already, look, obviously not in the quarterfinals, but I'll tell you what, Brokey had some fucking nightmare playoff matches too if you've been watching the first season. So you look elsewhere, Brokey wasn't doing stuff like they did against Mongols in the Swiss, where s1mple just turned on and actually had like a throwback series to like 2 or 3 years ago and just smurfed against them. Like, that's why you gamble on this guy. So I get it, okay. In terms of like the short term, yes, I can see why Blade, as I'll get to later, doesn't want to go this route. Like, he basically signalled it in my Reflections interview. Like I say, he said it in interviews. I even think, as I'll get to later, his whole thing of like s1mple should come back and play a tier 3 online CS first to sort of prove himself. That was, in my opinion, him like messaging. And I imagine he said this privately to s1mple as well. They're actually people who get along quite well if you don't know. I imagine he also told him basically, like, if you do that and then you prove yourself, then maybe we can talk about you coming back to Navi. But I'm not just gambling on you while you're drinking, driving sports cars, seeing a bunch of women and just playing, I don't know, fucking Clash Royale or whatever on your phone or just playing stupid Valorant gear. Yeah, I'm not going to fucking put you in my potential world #1 team right now while you're doing that. Like, how can I rely on you? That's not even the s1mple that left Navi, is it? That's not the grinder, the guy who's one of the greatest, like, workers, super... It's obviously not CS2, mate. It's CS2. So I don't blame Blade in that sense. I just think Blade is falling back into the classic routine he was in Flipside of like, there's always a way you can fix the squad and the tactic and the roles and the setups and people's philosophical understanding of the game, and that if you do that correctly, you can always win the next match. Now, I'm sorry, and knowing people who have thought that way before, MSL, etc., it's not true. Because the problem is, if you're outgunned by the other team, by the way, you think people like Vitality Mouse aren't trying to do all things? Of course they are. If they do all those things and they have better players, a better core, better chemistry and better superstars, yeah, good luck. And a better map pool, but give me a break. Like, that's the problem. I think this Navi core has run its course. I think you have to choose at least one more player. So who are you changing to if not s1mple, by the way? This is the angle when you get to the G2s and the Navis that are like, yeah, s1mple, no thanks, I don't feel like that. We'll fucking get instead. Like, am I missing something? I think some Pius is good, but what, he's that much better than s1mple even at that major, is he? Is he? I was watching the same major, but he didn't look like he was at that major. He's a good player. s1mple already showed me higher ceilings than he can give me. And then who else is there after that? But they're like, who's Navi getting if Wonderful gets kicked? Let me know. Remember, they can't get Russians, seemingly. So I think they're pretty shit out of luck, mate. What are they going to spend 700k or a million on a Jambo? Like, again, I'd rather take s1mple. But then again, there's a detail to that we'll get to, which is how motivated is s1mple. So you also have to consider as well that even if I say, I think in the long run, 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, in history, they might look back and go, holy fuck. Basically, this is like when Real Madrid let Ronaldo go because they thought he was too old. Like, mate, this guy still had a bunch of prime years left in him and there's no player coming in. By the way, give me a fucking break. Benzema, that was playing after that and getting all the goals because he was the next one in line. He wasn't fucking peak Ronaldo, was he? Ronaldo at Juventus was way better. So when you have a player like that, it's why they were writing an IP. If you get a chance to sign a Cristiano Ronaldo, which device is about as close as you can get without being zero or s1mple, Nico, you have to do it. You have to do it and then just figure the rest out afterwards, because in your career as a GM or an org or a coach, you're going to get so few opportunities to ever have a player that transcendently great. Not just good, not just can get in a really good shot form, not can be a game. No, just transcendently good. Like their existence itself can just transform your entire organization trajectory, potential. It can change what other players are like. It can change how the opponent views you. It can just change the results of history, other teams' ups and downs. This is the sort of player you had. You don't have any in the current lineup. You're probably not going to get any coming in. You're bringing in academy players now, mate. There's not even been any rumours in this last season of any big name players joining Navi. You haven't seen those rumours, have you? Why not? Navi's one of the biggest dogs in the world. Remember, they themselves back in the day signed the s1mples and the Guardians of the world and some very electronic, some mega fucking players who already were proven. So I do get that. And also, I'll add in as well, even though the story has never come out publicly, the implication behind the scenes is, yes, that when Navi went all the way to fucking Australia to play in IEM Sydney in the early days of CS2, yes, of course they didn't actually want fucking Blade, their super old, giga-washed coach, who wasn't even a very good player individually in CSGO, but was a great player in terms of an IGL in CSGO and 1.6. They didn't want him standing in, and even worse, fucking AWPing. That was a joke. That's so obvious that, yes, the rumours seem right, don't they? The rumours seem like s1mple didn't quite inform them that, like, he was fucking around or doing some stupid silly bugger shit and wasn't going to be able to come, or maybe never intended to go at all anyway. Now, I do think that is nuts, because first of all, you're going there partly because of your deals with ESL, etc. You're getting like appearance fees and stuff. You've also announced to all your fans and your players in the team, we're going to the event, you practice, etc. The idea is s1mple doesn't turn up. Blade has to insert himself. They even still were like vaguely relevant in the tournament at times. It was early CS2. I do think if that's the case, that s1mple basically like misled you or outright lied or was just being a delinquent idiot, I do think that's fucked up. And I tell you what, I don't know. I've never been a coach, so I've never had to do this and put my ego on the shelf. But if I was Blade, and especially, by the way, the next year, if I win a major without you, with your fucking replacement, wonderful at that, by the way. Go look at some threads when Wonderful replaced s1mple. Everyone was down on the move, except people like me. And even then, I thought it was just like, it'll do temporarily, won't it? Until s1mple comes back. If you go and look at that, like, and then you have the team of the year, you're in 6 finals in a row, you almost win all these big prestige events. Yeah, you know what? At that point in time, maybe I will go. Actually, I'm going to hold that grudge. Fuck you. I'll make time for Wayne Grow s1mple. You couldn't come to that event. You don't get to play in Navi anymore. How about that? Unless you play some tier 3 online CS and earn your way back in. I don't blame him for that. And like I said, the results suggest Blade was right. He won a major. He won 4 trophies that year. He was in 6 straight finals, something like 7 or 8 finals overall. They were the team of the year when they didn't have Donk, Monacy, Siwu, Nico. They didn't have anyone of that level. Like, if you did all those things, essentially everyone else is telling you you're wrong, and then you actually get the material results that suggest you're right. Well, then, yeah, I don't blame you if then another move comes along and people go, I'm not sure you're right on this one. You go, hey, I think I'll trust my own judgment on this, mate. I sort of know what I'm doing. Yeah, I don't blame you. I just think, unfortunately, you're not going to get another miracle like that. That's like lightning in a bottle, mate. It's not going to come twice. If you can do it again, by the way, then you probably are the GOAT coach. Like, no one can fucking touch you. But I think this is a bridge too far, personally. So, yeah, my issue is you just can't let talents like this go, in my opinion. I understand that he's in a situation where it's like, he's not peak or simple, is he? And we don't quite know yet how much he's going to play. Yeah, but that's also why, look, mainly for other people, but for NAVI too, that's also why he's available. Like, by the way, if he was peak simple, surely it would be him that would have joined Falcons for real instead of Monacy, right? Think about the timing of when he was there. If it was truly peak simple, it was guaranteed top 3 player in the world. He'd be in an org like that, or he'd get some mega rich person to fund his own org and he'd make his own lad. But so, by the way, if you're the other teams, the G2s, the world, like that stupid CEO comment, I think you're just morons that you're even signaling, I don't want this guy. Well, enjoy what you've got instead, mate. Like, I think you will see this year next that a team like that should have signed a simple. I mean, I think, like, I get it why NAVI didn't, because they were at least in a very good position at the end of last year. But then again, you look at this last season, what was that? There was nothing. What would you even have as copium for this last season if you're NAVI? Not really anything, right? Again, where are the big finals? I mean, where's there a trophy? You weren't even close to a trophy. You had that one series against Vitality, it kind of eats it, and that just flat to deceive. You were never as good since then. And spoiler, actually, maybe I'm thinking of didn't they have any? Oh, no, I'm thinking of the Spirit series. There we go. It's this one the way he beat Spirit, who the reigning major champ. They gave you some copium, but after that, there was nothing. That was it. And then obviously you did go to that fucking PGL and just fly out loose to like fucking Astralis or something. That's embarrassing, mate. That is really embarrassing. So all I'll say is this. If someone comes to me, this has happened, and asks me for another game, why is Vitality so dominant? Why are they so good? Do you know the first thing I would tell them? Well, first of all, they've done a really good job managing their transcendent generational talent. When they've had Zimu, first of all, they locked him down to a 5-year contract. I assume by now he'll have signed a different contract too. I think he had to re-up not that long ago. And then we've always kept him in the squad and made sure he was never going. In fact, there's never even been rumours. I know Carlos from G2 approached him in 2020, end of 2021 or something, but he wasn't for sale. And if you want a Falcons type buy, when you're as successful as Vitality is in the game, and you're Vitality, you're a giant org. I'm sorry, I don't think you sell Zero unless, one, he wants to go, like a Monacy scenario, and two, you charge way above market value. Like, you charge like 3 or 4 times market value. And at that point in time, if you want to just bankrupt yourself or you have unlimited money, yeah, maybe then you sell him. But aside from that, essentially, unless you're a Falcons willing to completely suicide in terms of the margins, you'll never get a Zero out of Vitality. Now, that's not the case apparently with s1mple and NAVI. That's not the case with Monacy and Nico and G2. Apparently, it might be the case with Donk in Spirit, but there are very few of the transcendent players that have been locked down and successfully built around and kept happy. I mean, you look even at traditional sports. In the modern day of the NBA, players go all over the place every couple of years. It's actually quite rare you get like the Steph Currys of the world just stay at one org. Like, the rest of them are constantly playing God with people's futures and the fucking balances and all the transfers and the draft picks. So, like, I think in CS and esports, it is essential to lock those people down and keep them happy. So I think, again, NAVI, look, they certainly got a lot out of s1mple. They got a Grand Slam, they got their own major, they had all these amazing fucking runs and epic plays. And I mean, the majority of his prime, almost his entire prime, was with NAVI. But maybe they could have had more. There could have been a couple of years more. You could have had something in CS2. By the way, maybe I end up being wrong. Maybe next year Blade can laugh and tell me, see, that's why I didn't sign him. He wasn't really, his heart wasn't in the game. Because I'll also say that. There's one aspect people aren't even considering. Blade knows s1mple. He's somebody who can talk to anytime he likes. A bunch of the other players, Bits, played with s1mple for years. Some of the others aren't maybe as friendly with him. NAVI, the org, surely has a sense of whether or not they think s1mple will grind again. Does he actually love CS2 at all like he did CSGO? I will certainly consider the fact that they don't seem to be at all interested in using him does make me wonder, do they know something we don't? Because thus far, s1mple started grinding, it seems like a couple of weeks ago, when these moves were already in the works that he's going to leave NAVI. And crucially, when he already knows he's probably not getting a join phase and he himself's even messaged that publicly. So I do think that's an issue that you have to ask yourself is, has he so far in CS2 ever properly grinded? He's certainly had a few weeks at a time where it reminds me actually of people who like want to go to the gym. Like you go for a few weeks, you're feeling really good, but then you get a little bit too big for your britches and you go, well, I can afford a few days off for a weekend off. And suddenly 3 weeks later, you're right back where you started again. You have to go start right at the bottom of the hill and push the boulder all the way back up. There's a little bit of that going on. There's a little bit of that consideration I have to think about. So now let's get into the rest of this story. Because I get the NAVI side, but I think it's complicated and it deserved unpacking. But if you go and look elsewhere, so first things first is their tweet. So the most interesting part everyone seems to have missed is this top part. So it says, following the last major, we received several transfer offers for s1mple, all of which were submitted to him for consideration. Today, we want to announce that after 9 years with the club, s1mple is leaving Natas. We are incredibly grateful to Alexander for the journey we travelled together, for the numerous trophies, unforgettable emotions and highlights. We say goodbye for now, but we'll be waiting to see you back on the server. Goat. Now, the most telling part is the first sentence. Following the last major, notice even the framing there, after the major, not before when FaZe was around there and there was hinting in all the videos, like, was it Tempera, whoever it was, or Rain or something, like, oh, maybe I better just sign this guy and him up. No, not that point. After the major, when we saw him play awesome in stage 3, not as good on stage. So after that, we received several transfer offers for s1mple, all of which were submitted to him for consideration. So the notion here, by the way, it's implied by what they're saying, is like these were all potentially acceptable offers. And then we basically just took them in s1mple and said, right, consider these offers. But seemingly, s1mple himself has considered and presumably declined these offers, which itself is interesting, by the way, because you're going to see one thing s1mple did in this whole scenario that I don't really fuck with is he sort of kept messaging. In fact, he just outright said, like, I'm sort of in contract prison. Oh, what the fuck? Let me play it. Just let me fucking play it. It's like, but then you see this, well, I'm NAVI lying then, mate. They're submitting to you, like, here's offer. All right, mate, you want to play CS? Well, here's the offers for you to play CS elsewhere, not in our team, which, by the way, I don't know how much they pay him, but they were paying him his salary while he's in the team and for all these years. Now, yes, I imagine there's potentially a salary, like, decrease when you're benched. That's how most big orgs work. But I'll tell you what, might not be the case in s1mple's case. I could see s1mple being someone who had a giant contract, like a Zemu type player. When you're at the peak, when you sign your contract like he did, he signed it like 3 years ago or something, yeah, you can get the sort of crazy deal. In the same way as in the NFL, they like to put money non-guaranteed in case you get injured. Yeah, but if you're some like goated quarterback and you're so in demand in elite that like every other org will go, look, what, they don't offer you a certain stipulation, I'll give you it. Everyone ends up giving you the guaranteed money. Because even if you do get injured, the point is all the other people bidding are going to go, well, I'll give you the guaranteed money then, I'll take that gamble. And so eventually you have to do it. I could easily imagine s1mple had that sort of a deal. So I would love to know, maybe I'll ask him this one day, how much of your salary were you getting when you were on the bench here, mate? Because if it was anywhere close to all of it, holy fuck, I think this is like almost borderline, I don't know about dishonest, I would say disingenuous the way you're framing it. And I actually even think it's a bit fucked up, potentially even morally. Because you're making it sound like they are keeping you in prison. Like, oh, I can't play it. It's like, mate, either accept an offer to a smaller team so they get their money in return, but they paid you all this salary for months and months and months and months and months. They want either that loan approach that Navi had, or they want to buy out, mate. That's totally reasonable when they paid you all these years of salary, or half salary, or whatever. And by the way, if you know the sort of contract he had, even half salary would be better than like most of the top 10 teams in fucking the HLTV top 10 as far as I know. He was on a giant fucking salary per month. So even half of that would still be bigger than like, the joke is probably way more than like a Mongols player makes with their full starter salary in a team that just made the fucking major final, because who is the Mongols org? Exactly. So I did have a little bit of a problem with that, but I just thought this part was missed by people. The notion they had multiple offers, more than one offer, and they submitted them, and presumably he didn't take any at the time. Now, maybe this ended up being one, but even then, I think if you look at the framing elsewhere, I don't actually know that that necessarily makes that much sense. So the idea he didn't take all the deals. Now, you could imagine, let's do a fan approach for a second. He certainly seemed, by all the things he messaged online, like he really liked it in FaZe Clan. Like that was a team he wanted to play in. I even think FaZe Clan was in a scenario where it made sense. They needed him. He needed them. They needed a big superstar name to make people believe in the FaZe Clan brand again. And they also need the dream that he becomes real s1mple again. You got all these things at the major, at least a taste, if not like at times the full dose. So seemingly great move for s1mple to come back, work his way back to FaZe. Great move for FaZe to integrate s1mple. You don't have to be amazing initially, then gradually you get your status back. So I think if you look elsewhere at what he messaged, it was implied that he just wanted FaZe. It was just FaZe or bust at this time. So you go back a month ago, end of June, and he posted a picture here when he was on holiday with some girl I'm assuming he was dating or something. A fan goes, is she going to be the buff when you join FaZe? He goes, seems like not joining. Keep it in secret. Now look, s1mple can be silly, but even he knows this is tongue-in-cheek. He obviously knows that by saying it like this, it isn't in secret. Spoiler, 262k people saw it and 3k people liked it. And spoiler, I retweeted it instantly. So it wasn't really in secret. He's doing that sort of like, we quick keep it secret. He wants everyone to know that publicly. He wants everyone to. That's like someone replying to a story, knowing the fan will fuck it in sports on Instagram, knowing someone will screenshot it and then put it on all the gossip websites. You know what you're doing. This guy then goes, we need you, bro. And he goes, sometimes it's hard to go out from jail. Now, I'll get back to that later because I want to keep all the topics together. But I'm showing this is where his head was at a month ago. Presumably he wants to join FaZe. In fact, I'd go further and I'd even say that he's actually sort of pressuring FaZe by saying this, like, it seems like I'm not joining. Didn't say I haven't joined, or I won't be joining. Seems like I'm not joining. Sometimes it's hard to get out from jail. He's called out both parties there. He's called out FaZe for not signing him, seemingly. Or he's called out NAVI for the buyout being too much and then not doing the business with FaZe. By the way, based on things I've heard, one, I imagine NAVI did want a decent buyout. I'll get to that in a minute, because of the model they'd already established that had worked twice with FaZe and Falcons of renting this guy, presumably for like 100 grand or something a month. Like, that's a fucking bagger approach to take. You still keep him, but you also get 6 figures, and he goes and plays elsewhere, and he's currently not even a team generally that's actually outperforming you, etc. So you're not even fucking your trajectory in these tournaments. Then he's going, sometimes hard to go out from jail. So then you go to this FaZe angle. So in July, he said, recently destroying everyone in Clash Royale, waiting for contract or at least good opponent, hashtag FaZe up. So then s1mple comes in and goes, brother, I love you. And he goes, I love you as well, bro, but you know what to do, ... By the way, even though he's doing it in a jokey, sort of jovial manner, this is somewhat a massive superstar player name. Remember, it doesn't matter how good they are at the game now. People like s1mple in CS, Reckless in League of Legends, these are giant names in their esports. Like, the joke is, both those players, when benched or playing in lesser regions or academy, they would both, if you saw at the end of last year, they were the most searched players in their games. They were like top 2 or 3, even though they're not at the level currently of like Upset in League of Legends or Ziwu in fucking CS. It didn't matter. They have more cultural impact, copyright Maui Snake. And that's why fans are still incredibly interested. So when you've got a massive profile like that, or a Ronaldo, etc., who obviously is nowhere close to the best player in the world anymore, but is a giant name in sports, when you do this, you know what you're doing. You are trying to actually get a groundswelling of fan sentiment that they agree they want to see you play again and play in FaZe even. FaZe has loads of fans that had a massive pop from the crowd online and in person at that major. You are trying to use that to influence FaZe to get the fucking deal done. Like, before, you made it like, it's hard when you're in jail. That sounds like you're saying in NAVI, come on, let my people go. Even though we'll get into that in a second. Now it looks like you're basically telling FaZe, get your fucking shit together. Where's my offer then? Or where's my offer that's even vaguely close to a number they might say yes to? You say you want me. You're saying it on stream you want me for like attention and interest and free PR. Now are you actually going to show it? And I'll just put this out there. If there were teams making offers, and NAVI, seemingly these offers are acceptable. Like, they're passing them as s1mple, and if he agrees and considers them worthwhile, presumably they'll move forwards, they'll get the numbers crunched, and they'll get a deal done. I'm just going to put this out there. No one knows yet who the other team orgs are. But I'm going to go ahead and guess the 2 teams I'm about to name now weren't in the mix. And if they weren't, I think these orgs are fucking trolling themselves. So one is the aforementioned G2, where the CEO of G2 went out of his way last season, bizarrely, to just address the notion of like fancy. Why not sign s1mple? Because they knew he was losing modesty. Although he didn't seem to understand it himself until the 11th fucking hour. Even though the writing was on the wall the whole time there, homie. Maybe you don't know CS. And then he went out of his way to say that they didn't want to sign s1mple, and that doesn't make sense for where they're at in their careers. And then they turned around and signed fucking Hades as a stand-in for the major, and then s1mpius as their real fucking player. Like, that already makes you look like a clown. But the other one to me, that's crazy. This seemingly wasn't even in the rumour mill. You never saw this on a telegram from someone in Russian translated. Where the fuck was Team Liquid in this equation? I've even heard last year, back when they had the Zeus, Cadian, that lineup was Yakinda. I've even heard back then they'd thought about possible solutions. Could we get like a s1mple? Could someone like that come into the team? Would that be possible? Because Cadian was playing like shit with the AWP. Where are they this last season after the major? Like, you imagine taking out Ultimate today and putting s1mple in. Listen, yeah, you're bringing a massive personality. You're going to have a lot to deal with outside the server. He's got to get his shit together. He's got to learn the new meta. That's all true. Wouldn't it be similar to the Brokey scenario? Wouldn't he just walk in and immediately have games that were better than Ultimate? Immediately give you a presence on the server you didn't have before. And actually, by the way, give you a little bit of fucking spunk. Give you a little bit of fucking energy that you're actually a good team that's fighting for something. At the moment, people in Team Liquid look like they got a face like a slapped arse, and they just collect their check and fuck off in last place or second to last. That's whack. It still looks on paper like the roster should be good. And by the way, you put s1mple instead of Ultimate on that roster, we're cooking already. NAF can stay for now. Like, we got some nice riflers. We've got a massive name fucking potential op star. Like, where are these teams? Where is G2 and TL? If I'm going to say Navi's going to regret it in a few years, I think fucking G2 and Team Liquid might look stupid next year. Certainly both have cores where they could get it together and be better than whatever team s1mple's on now. But you also have to ask, what if? Do the Doctor Strange? What if we go to the alternate timeline where it's s1mple instead of some pious here? It's s1mple instead of Ultimate in Team Liquid. Wouldn't that be an interesting second season of this year to go and watch? So then we have this whole angle of him joining BC.Game. Now, here's where I know BC.Game. I know them because about a year, maybe it was even a bit more than that, it might have been about a year and a half ago, it was actually the team initially that Guardian joined. Guardian joined it to become a coach, and then after that, people might not remember, they basically got a whole bunch of the players that used to be Kassad's Bleed players. They had people like Cypher, Nexa, Jacob. These are all his boys. Nork. These are all people that were in the Bleed team, but they weren't getting paid by the Bleed org, and Kassad was playing out of his own pocket, and then the team failed online, didn't they? So that's where I knew this team. From Guardian, initially, he's not the coach anymore. Then from the players that were from Bleed. And then thirdly, maybe you have heard about them this year, because there was that crazy drama where Jacob supposedly had basically stolen skins from people. The legendary Norwegian player, formerly of Renegades and way back in the day, G2 also, obviously at that one Close Poker run, he'd supposedly just not returned, or he'd lied, and he'd just stolen tens of thousands of dollars worth of skins. And then the story went, this came out actually, not just as an expose from people who were skin traders and stuff, but also it actually was addressed by BC.Game themselves, and they said something along the lines of that they were going to bench him, presumably as a punishment, and then also that they were helping him to pay it off or helping him to deal with it. It was implied to me, basically, if you read between the lines of that because they are a massive esports team, as in the sense of being funded by a casino, it implied to me they just have excess income, because having a casino is almost a license to print money, isn't it? That they were going to help him pay off some of his debts to help erode this bad PR, and then potentially, if he's motivated in the game, he can come back into the roster. By the way, you could just cut that player to deal with your own debts yourself. You could just go, we can't be associated with somebody who would steal skins if we are a casino or a betting company. You could do all that, but they actually seemingly stood by him early on, and actually were seemingly potentially even willing to financially help him. Now, I don't think that's actually a positive for this story, s1mple joining them. Because even though right now, I can tell you, we'll get into it in a second, their lineup is not good. At the same time, I'm going to go ahead and guess they have a fuck ton of money and potentially even paid a decent buyout for s1mple and are paying him a very good salary. That would be my speculation from the outside. And I'll give you an angle that people also have missed if you want to skip back a few days. And it goes like this. So a few days ago, it was on the 22nd of July, CS2 News posted this. I'm going to assume this was on a Telegram or a stream. s1mple was talking about playing casino streams. He says, damn, I've never dipped into this swamp, casino streams. I know what he means, but he's just meaning swamp as a visual metaphor. If you know the Donald Trump application, maybe not the best angle to use when it's a company you might end up joining. I've never dipped into this swamp, casino streams before. Maybe I should give it a shot. I could make some cash when my contract with NAVI ends. They say I could even stream it on Twitch. Now, first things first, if you're thinking about doing casino streams on the 22nd of July, and then something like 6 days later, you join a team that is funded by a casino, already I can see why they would want you, whether their CS team's ever going to be good or not. Because, bro, you're s1mple. You're a giant streamer. You don't have to stream CS, remember? You turn on your stream and show yourself playing on their casino. I imagine that is about the best possible PR they can actually fucking buy. I mean, right now, if people don't know, it's not s1mple anymore because he's not as big a name in CS right now, but people like Nico are constantly being put into fake ads with AI that lie and say he's part of a skin giveaway or a special site, or you can join this thing now. And he is so huge that even scammers do that on Twitch to try and get people to click and to go to the stream, etc. So if you had the real s1mple, mate, he doesn't even have to play one lick of CS. He doesn't have to shoot a single head. Already that could be mega advertising for your casino. And by the way, that's a rare example of advertising where you will just directly profit from doing that. So I actually think, first of all, for BC.Game, even though they might have had to pay a decent buyout, might be in hundreds of thousands, and they certainly might even have to pay him 30, 50k a month salary. It's probably worth it. If you know how huge s1mple is and how much influence he has and how many young people, I don't mean that in terms of kids, I mean people who follow CS and are the target demographic, the 18 to 24-year-old people, I think this is one of the best people you can ever sign up. And he's already mentioning publicly, I haven't really tried casino streams. All of a sudden, completely out of the blue, zero warning from even the CIS community and all the insiders, signs for a team that's related to a casino. Seems a bit on the nose for me. Not that there's a problem with it, but it just seems like this detail has been missed by people in putting this story together. Because, in my opinion, he would be a mega person to promote the casino. Plus, right now, that's even a way he can directly do something for the team, because he's not yet that shit hot in the game, is he? So, I've got an angle on this I want to address, which goes like this. I heard from one of my little birds in the scene that this deal might only be for a couple of months, might only be like a 2-3 month deal. And if you don't know, if you go back to when s1mple signed his last NAVI contract, I believe people online say it was supposed to run out in October of this year. That's also why NAVI was doing a very interesting approach, as I'll get to in a minute, with the whole will we let you be bought out? Because at the time, the more months that are on the contract, the higher you can make the buyout. And then the buyout being high makes people more tempted to say, I'll just rent him for a month, see if it works well for a month. But you're paying maybe like a sixth or a seventh of the buyout, depending on what era. It's supposed to be millions before. Maybe it's 700k now because there's a few months left. It's still worth more to you, to NAVI, to one, not have him on a top team elsewhere, two, get the buyout, and then potentially you want them to do a Falcons or a FaZe, rent him for a month or two, and then you want them to buy as well. Then you get the rent and the buyout. That's actually perfect for you, right? So I can see why that aspect would exist. So I'll just say this. People thinking, so he's committed to BC.Game. No, based on what I've heard, he might only be doing the equivalent. It sounds to me like they just bought the end of his contract. Or maybe he even bought himself up for the end of his contract and they pay him some fuck ton of money to promote the casino. I don't know. This is speculation, this part. But I'm trying to put together some pieces that are out there. They're just not directly connected or explicitly stated, are they? So I think actually, wouldn't this work for all parties? If you're NAVI, by the way, he's not going to a rival to beat you. Like in FaZe, he might have actually made you look silly. Also, you're not letting him go for cheap, because why the fuck would you? One, people have to gamble that he might still be super sick now, but he might be. Two, there's other teams in the mix. If there's other teams in the mix, I don't care what FaZe offers. If the others are offering more, then I'm sorry, that FaZe can't be top of my list. I'm considering these other offers. Now, which one do you want? Nah, but I want everything my way. Yeah, we understand pro players. We understand how you all thinking that you're all like 18-year-olds in your mind. We get that. We get that. But we're the ones paying you millions of fucking dollars and who have a giant contract that you totally agreed to at the peak of your powers and got all your terms, I would imagine. So yeah, you know what? I think we'll go ahead and exercise our rights at the end of the contract and deal with it how we want to. But I think this is perfect for all three parties. I think if you're NAVI, you sell him not to a massive org. Presumably you get the buyout you want anyway. You're in a scenario where he's now gone. There's no more pressure of like, all people like Wonderful have to shit themselves thinking s1mple's coming. Now it's just the normal NAVI team. If you're s1mple, I'll get to it in a second, but I actually think now you can just earn your way back. No, it won't be like Falcons and FaZe, where it's like you've just been gifted a spot, even though, yeah, you might be actually like he was. You might walk in and be the best player, but you've just been gifted that spot. You didn't earn it back again. You're getting that for who you were in CS2 and who you used to be, and the fact that these teams are desperate, quite frankly. There's a detail you can't ignore. These weren't like super elite teams signing him. These were desperate teams signing him, and teams where the main thing they had potentially was money for the buyout. And in some cases, they were both trying to do it for the major, weren't they? Falcons was trying to do it to get the major sticker money and get one result finally after months and months. And FaZe was trying to, they did get there, to do something at the major, make the playoffs and have a little run and give people hope that they're a real team still and they haven't just capsized and are just some also runs that they certainly seem like a lot of the time. So I think this is actually a great move Because then consider if by the way, if you're BC gamers, maybe he promotes your casino, he plays with your S&M players out, maybe you even do something in a CCT that gives you a little bit of a pop and you start to reignite your CS division after it seemingly had died on its arse and was just being slowly fading out like a fucking Back to the Future family photo because of what happened with Jacob and people like Guardian fucking off and some of the rest of them just being irrelevant. If you don't know, a few days before this, they already sold Cypher, one of their more promising players, and he hasn't really advanced much since that 2023. You already sold him to Fnatic. So I think when you look at this squad, the detail people are missing is, if this is only for a few months, but then s1mple goes there and promotes the casino and Giga grinds online, then he is in a very powerful position in a few months, maybe in October this year. Because then he can walk, zero buyout, to another big org. He's already shown his level online, in online competition. He's shown it in FPL. He's shown it while grinding. He's streamed. You can see now he's real s1mple. He must be motivated. He's got his level up. He's had some results online. Now you walk in, zero buyout. All you need is your salary. If you're s1mple, now the world is your oyster, mate. And that would be right in the middle of this season now, but with still time before the next major, where again, if you're a big name team and you need to gamble, maybe it could be a Team Liquid. I'm just putting it out there. That's not even speculation. I'm putting that out there. I want that to exist in the world. Manifest, the secret. Maybe you could just sign this guy and make your miracle run at the major, except the difference is you're not signing him like Falcons or FaZe did. You'll know he's already good. You'll know it's the real s1mple, and he's got zero buyout. Mate, a lot of AWPers are going to have a fucking clenched arsehole for the next season, aren't they? If what I'm saying is accurate, now that it's based on, let's just say, I haven't got the ironclad. It's not something I've cross-referenced, just something I heard from one of my little birds. By the way, if you want to feel bad for someone as well, how about this guy? This fucking guy, Nork, can't catch a break. Look, he was never an elite world-class AWPer. He was just like a good tier 1 AWPer, I would say, around the beginning of his NIP period, especially in that Apex run at that Blast Paris major, where they really could, by the way, have beaten Vitality and been in the final, maybe even won that major. This guy can't catch a break. So when he was in NIP, he for real came in one day and they were like, bad news, Nork, we've signed Device. And the joke is he really was just like, well, understandable. Thank you for my time in NIP. Just walked up. Because it's like, if they signed Device, especially back then, 2021, of course he's way better than you. In fact, the joke is you'd even say to them, you should sign Device, mate. A bit like I famously told E-League when they were like, we could have had Yankush did you because they didn't have an extra analyst. And I was like, well, he's probably better than me, mate. Maybe you should have gotten him. And the joke is they did get him after that. He was at the Boston Major, wasn't he? Well, now, after Device, now s1mple's done the same thing to him. Nork himself is trying to resurrect his career. Now it's like, sorry, mate, we just got fucking s1mple. It's like, well, all right. I mean, just the game he had against Mongols in the fucking Swiss alone has dwarfed my career for the last 2 years. So yeah, I guess you get him. But at least he has a good sense of fucking humour. Like, I like this angle. Any team that wants to pick up z1w in the future, his joke is if you sign him, presumably it'll be z1w who comes and cocks him next for the opponent. Could also make the same joke about Monacy or someone, couldn't he, if he wanted to do that angle. By the way, obviously clearly got a sound fucking sense of humour, hasn't he? So the roster of BC.Game isn't, by the way, one that has no hope whatsoever in it. There are some pieces there that you will know. So you will know Nexa. He is the in-game leader, I believe, of the team. Now, sure, in-game leader has been a cursed position for Nexa, but we're also not talking about tier 1 like you're going to try and make all the playoffs of the lands. This is just getting things going online. I'm pretty sure Nexa can be a competent IGL at that level. He even did IGL a team to a major final in 2021. I'm pretty sure s1mple knows he played against him in the final of said major. So Nexa can certainly be a competent IGL at this level, despite all the memes of what happened to G2. It wasn't the IGL in that last roster, remember. That was the Huxley era. That was when Nexa was just in a position where he was just a fucking bad lurker, basically. Then you've got, and also, by the way, he's someone who his personality is, he will cede to s1mple and set up the game around him, in my opinion. Then you've got Kakanito, who is the Macedonian player that was in Apex after their major period of time at one point. This is someone where I have heard in the past, I think he was even considered in, I think like Ensor Heroic or someone was considering picking him up at one point in time at the end of 2023. So this has been a guy who's been in and around the tier 1 scene and people have had interest in him. The Prime Taps guy I barely know. He's an old guy who used to be in Big Academy in some of the German teams. I don't know who the fuck this guy is. And look, beyond that, you've just got rid of Cypher. You still need a 4th player, right? That's 3 players plus s1mple. Presumably you need, in this case, like another good rifler, right? We're assuming s1mple's going to be the AWP. Now, one thing I want to just point out here is, I feel like people who are just haters or fans of z1mple just constantly rewrite s1mple's career and just outright blatantly lie. So first of all, they always tell this lie that he was shit in Falcons. He wasn't. I can tell you that was when he wasn't playing the game much and he walked into the worst ever version of Falcons and he was the best player in their team. And not only that, he only played wasn't it something like 13 maps. Every other map, he was like top fragging the whole server and actually looking legit and hitting shots. Not peak s1mple, but like world-class op shots. He already in that time period, by the way, looked like, well, fuck, if that's him out of form and he's barely played CS2 and he hasn't even been an AWP already in CS2, there's still something there. The real s1mple's still inside. But similarly, when it comes to his performance at this last major, it's been rewritten because of the quarters. So in the Swiss system, if you remember, what happened was, FaZe Clan played Aurora in the opener. Aurora blasted them. Aurora, by the way, was the top 5 or 6 team in the world. Then after that, they played Mouse, the number 2 team in the world, and beat them 13-10 on Ancient. Then you had this series where they played Mongols, who ended up going to the final, and they 2-0'd them. And then that was it. That was them through to the playoffs. In this match they had in the Swiss, which got them to the playoffs, if you remember, s1mple started map 1, something like 0-6 as a scoreline or something like that. This is what happened by the end of the game. He went something like, let's say like 37-12 after that over like 1.5 maps or something and smurfed the whole server against the team that went to the major final and even beat Vitality on a map, by the way. This happened. This was real. Like these numbers right now, by the way, are like peak s1mple numbers at a major against like what, a top 5 team in the world. He's doing it on T side, he's carrying. On CT side, he's mega. Just smurfed the whole series. It was mega. To the extent that if you go to the Blast Major and you do stats, this counts stage 3 and the playoffs. So he played 7 maps because he played 5 in the Swiss and then he played 2 in that really bad quarterfinal where he shit the bed and hit nothing against the rematch of Mongols. Even with the shit series against Mongols, look where s1mple was rated for the tournament from stage 3 and the playoffs. He was literally the 8th highest rated player in the entire tournament. Played the same number of maps as Donk, as Yakinda. He was the 8th highest rated in the entire tournament. And it's not like FaZe was insane, by the way. He was their firepower. FaZe was a 1.05 team. He was their firepower. Remember, Frozen's in their team, a HLTV player every year. Frozen didn't play particularly well this tournament. Elysia's in the team. He played okay. Rain was actually semi-shit. Carrigan didn't have a great performance. He was okay at times. That's even with the bad 2 maps against a team that was getting better as the tournament went on, by the way. You go, look, this is the performance at the major from FaZe Clan. They played 7 maps. Look at s1mple's numbers. He is gapping his own team, and they're all real professional players who've been in a bunch of playoffs, and Elysia's still like, Elysia and Frozen are world-class riflers. Carrigan's one of the best IGLs in the world. A historical role player in Rain. And again, this guy, pretty good numbers for a T-side AWPer. CT side is obviously smurfing. Look at that. Look at the KD on that. That's including the 2 shit games. So miss me with this whole fucking whack angle of like, he was just garbage at the minute. He's washed. If that's washed, you don't know anything about Counter-Strike and I don't respect your opinion enough to even speak to you further. Go to the fucking dunce corner, put your little cone hat on and shut the fuck up. Ask the Mongols if he's washed. So then we had this thing where he did this tweet that I want to address now, because this was so self-pity, I think it's actually pathetic. When he got released and he joined BC.Game, he goes, Dobby is free. I just want to play. BC.Game Esports gave me the chance and they're serious about building a top-tier team. Right, we'll see about that. Look, Silent Simple certainly suggests much, but based on what I've heard, maybe they haven't got that many months to do it. I don't know really if I believe they're going to do this, but whatever. I could believe he's been sold on that vision. Also, maybe if it goes awesome, he does stay there. Maybe they pay him a nice salary and they claim they will sign other people. Let's see. By the way, interesting detail, I'll just throw this out there. We assume GL is just going to be benched for a while and then come back to Navi, maybe even for Makazi. That's probably on the table there, and he's probably more likely to be allowed back. But he did talk recently, simple on stream, about the idea of what if we play with you, GL, and maybe someone like a GL could come to a team like this in the future. I don't think so, but, let's put it out there. Let's see what moves we make and how I can impact things. Maybe some things will change, maybe not. Only results will show. You're just giving us nothing there, but okay. One wise man said, this is key, if you want to come back on tier 1 scene, you need to join tier 3 team. I haven't done anything for 2 years. It's time to change that. Can't waste/lose game time sitting on bench. Now, just as an aside, he also did do the classic simple flame, which is BC.Game goes, we are tier 1, what the fuck? Welcome, boss man. And he goes, you wish. Because it wouldn't be simple unless you flame your own fucking team, would you? So pretty funny. Now, 2 things here. I'll address this one. See this part here. One wise man said, if you want to come back on tier 1 team, you need to join tier 3 team. Now, true, I have said something like this last sentence, which is that I do think whether you get signed by FaZe or not, while you're waiting to get signed and offers are out there, I'd be grinding the whole time. I'd be grinding on stream and in an FPL if I'm simple. I'd be playing as much as I can to 1, get my level good so when I do get the opportunity, I can be awesome. But 2, show the world I do care about the game. I am motivated and I'm raring at the bit to go and be in a top team again. That'll make it more likely they sign you, in my opinion. But this part here is very interesting. One wise man said this thing about you need to join a tier 3 team. Now, if you don't know, back in 2024, in July, when NAVI's becoming like the top team in the world, and people still are thinking, but can s1mple come back into the roster though? Blade did this very interesting statement where he said that. He said s1mple can start playing online tournaments with tier 3 teams to come back. So let's see this. When s1mple comes back, this is something he said with DOS2PR, which is like the Brazilian equivalent of like HLTV.org sort of, to regional site. I think this question can only be asked to s1mple. I can't say anything too specific because we are focused on this lineup, how these pieces work. He's already messaging this quite clearly between the lines, isn't he? He is resting. Interesting already, he's not grinding. He is resting. So obviously he is not at his best individually and he needs to start doing something. As soon as he is ready to come back, anything can happen. We don't know. He's even actually leaving a door open. Maybe he can come back. After the major, there is a big transfer window, and usually the teams that change are the ones that completely failed. For example, the ones that are outside the top 8. Now, if you don't know, at the major after this, at the end of this season, at the end of 2024, the Perfect World Shanghai Major, NAVI did fail to even make top 8. Essentially, that part of the prophecy, as it were, or path to return to the lineup was set by Blade. Problem was, s1mple didn't grind, did he? s1mple didn't go and play a tier 3 online CS and put loads of hours in and show, put me back in the game, coach. So then it says here, any team that needs a good AWPer might pick him. If I was s1mple, now here's what's key. This is the same advice I gave s1mple recently. If I was s1mple, I would start showing up now to demonstrate he's ready for after Shanghai. By the way, Blade is so smart. He's even just signalled all this to you publicly for the fans and to you. It's the perfect time to jump on this train. I don't know. He can start playing online tournaments with tier 3 teams to come back. We know s1mple, he's the GOAT. He just needs to get in shape. Now, this is already something I think is quite interesting. What I'll address initially is this. This is why I don't actually blame Blade overall for not taking s1mple back and making that the gamble. Like, I feel like if you're even going to do a gamble and you're Blade, you would actually take a Jambo type younger up-and-coming player who's mega grinding or a head trick or something like that, and you just figure out how to make it. Look, you did it with Wonderful. You got all that success. No one thought you would with that type of player. I didn't even think you'd get trophies, man. I thought you'd just be a good player. So I understand why you'd rather go that route than bring this guy in. As he sort of addressed in my interview with him, Blade, he sort of made it clear that like he actually appreciates more winning in NAVI with like a team effort and by committee and people doing their roles and playing proper CS and good macro CS over having maybe the greatest player ever, a superstar player, and building around them and having to cater to them massively. The implication being that's what it's like playing with s1mple. But yeah, look, when that's all you've got, you take it. But if you're going to have a team where it's like there's not as many egos and you can win as well and you get more of an input, it's more about what you want and what everyone else wants in the squad and playing the proper style. Maybe that's what he wants more. I get that aspect. And you don't know that he's actually grinding the game, right? So crucially, s1mple wasn't just about being the most skilled player ever or being the best, but it was about being the player who also played the most. He was like the Peyton Manning, the Kobe Bryant. He just grinded infinitely. So the one thing he never had to worry about with s1mple was, I didn't practice enough. He didn't try the new angles. He didn't practice his jumping no-scope. He didn't get all his utility setups. In fact, by the way, for a superstar player, might have had the best utility. I'll give Nico very good credit for his flashes, but s1mple had some of the best utility of any superstar AWPer I've ever seen. This guy definitely understood all the like trades of utility on Inferno, Banana, etc. So this guy used to be a grinder. In fact, he even sort of implied as much himself that he gets that he fucked up in the way that Blade told him over a year ago to do by this tweet. On this jail stream. So when he went on a jail stream, only a few days before signing with BC.Game, he says, why the hell would FaZe pay for me? By the way, put it together. So NAVI get all these offers. FaZe claim on stream they're going to try and get s1mple. He's pressuring them. Hey, man, you know what to do if you want to. I guess I am not joining FaZe. Oh, I am stuck in jail. Read between the lines. NAVI's asking for too much money and FaZe either just isn't doing their side or they just don't want to pay that much. And they're trying to maybe play hardball and they're just leaving it out there and walking away from the table, the ultimate move in negotiation, saying, hey, let's see if that price goes down. If you've ever been to one of those cheap markets in China where they constantly do that, like, oh, please, my children be fucking homeless if you get that price. And then you go, all right, forget about it then. You walk away. Suddenly they go, no, please, that price is good. And you realize, oh, fuck, they were playing me the whole time. Like, that, I could have gone even lower than that means. So maybe there was some, gamesmanship going on here. Or maybe FaZe just either doesn't have the money to sign a massive player like that, or they just don't want to. Maybe actually, like s1mple implies here, maybe they didn't want to for some reasons that they wouldn't say publicly because it does them no favours. But behind the scenes, they've seen a few things to give them some doubt. So he says, why the hell would FaZe pay for me? They saw that I'm not that good. Ooh, interesting comment, because if you saw the Major in the Swiss stage, he looked really good, right? Yeah, sure, shit on stage, but, he hasn't played on stage in years. He hasn't played CS2 on stage. He's playing one of the better teams in the world, up-and-coming team, super young, grinding the game, really dangerous. Also, you've just played them, so they've seen the best of what you can do. Then you don't play well. They win on the rematch with all the adjustments. But why would he say this? He says, they saw that I'm not that good. I made mistakes in practice, bit telling, and played badly in the playoffs, blast Austin. Ooh, that's a bit interesting, a little bit spicy, isn't it? Because here's the interesting thing about that. That's why also a lot of my sympathy for s1mple fell apart in this period. It's when it evaporated was when he started making all these public comments. Because, bro, who is there to blame except you for that? Remember the story he told during the major, or maybe it was just before, where he said that he was only told something like, I think it was like 9 days before IEM Dallas. Rain contacted him and was like, hey, do you want to play IEM Dallas as a stand-in and then the major as well? And at the major, we'll have the real lineup with you. And he basically said something like, so I stopped drinking and I started playing. And it's like, what? What? What do you mean you stopped drinking? So the whole time before that, while you're sitting there like, can I get in the team? It's like, you're just fucking glug, 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 glug. No, it'd be nice to be in a team. But I tell you, it would be nice at the bottom of this motherfucking bottle. Oh, look at that, the stars. Ooh. What are you doing? And then you started playing CS. So, by the way, look, on the one hand, that just shows that I am right about what an incredible transcendent talent this guy is. Apparently, off one tournament playing together, remember the other ones were Skulls as a stand-in, one real tournament with that lineup, they only played 7 maps together. He could get the performance he had against Mongols in the Swiss out of only a week and a half of practice, a warm-up tournament with a different roster, and then going straight into playing 2 of the best teams in the world. That does show he has mad talent, but it also makes you think, fuck, bro, what if you'd been grinding for 3 months? Wouldn't you already... Look, you still have to get yourself into, match fitness. You might have the ring rust concept from MMA, combat sports, but your ability level would be way higher, right? You wouldn't have a game like you had in the playoffs where you just looked like you had your nuts cut off. You were just completely lackluster. You couldn't affect the game. You had no agency. The guy from the Swiss stage disappeared completely and suddenly we had the worst ever version of s1mple play that match. Well, after that, if they saw that game, and by the way, that bracket was set up that when you won that game, you could not only go in the third map, but won it, as you saw from the Swiss. I'm saying it, you would have beaten Payne. You would be in the final. I don't think you have any chance to beat Vitality in the final. I'll tell you what, the hype alone from that, yeah, FaZe probably do sign you. Carrigan and all the rest of them go, bro, we got to get this deal done. We've got to have this guy. He's the only person who's saving FaZe. But you didn't do that. It was right there. It was like a fucking ladder match in WWE. It was hanging right there. Oh, maybe I should have said one of those fucking contract matches with the briefcase. It was right there and you couldn't climb up the ladder because you were out of shape in this analogy and too atrophied from sitting on the fucking couch playing games on your phone and drinking and fucking driving sports cars to do what? The one thing you are all-time great at, play fucking CS. So yeah, you know what? Some of my sympathy evaporates away when I find that out. And then what? You're going to sort of whine about it later. Well, why the hell would FaZe pay for me? You're the one publicly saying they have to do it and going on about, guess it's not happening now. Well, then why would it happen? This sounds like what you've done is when you know they're not signing you and that's gone and that's already gone over the horizon, that ship sailed. It sounds like then you just recontextualized it. Like, well, they were never going to sign me anyway, were they? I mean, why would they? I didn't play well, did I? So I wasn't even fucking practicing the game. And then what? Now that you've joined BC.Game, you've had the epiphany. Maybe I should practice CS and show people I'm really good in a totally different game than I was at the all-time GOAT in. And one that I've already played something mental, like off the top of my head, I'm going to say, 40 official maps in? Come on, homie. In Tier 2 and Tier 3 online CS, you play 40 maps in like fucking 3 weeks, mate. So you could have easily had hundreds of maps in this game. You chose not to. You didn't even grind super hard in FPL. You were on and off in that sense. So this is already an issue I have. Because let's go back to it, shall we? I said I wanted to address this. Dobby is free. Right. I'm not a big Harry Potter fan. Never read the books. I've only watched a few of the movies. I actually got baited because I watched that one with like the serious black guy, which was one that had like the real, actual talented director. I think I watched that one first. I thought, this isn't bad actually. And I watched some of the other ones. Like, this is actually fucking gash. This is shit. Why would I watch this? Like, there's way better even children's fucking entertainment than this. But one thing I do know about Harry Potter is Dobby is this like shit little house elf character he has, where I think he actually works for like the Malfoys or whatever. But then he works for Harry Potter, and what they imply is that this like race of house elves or whatever just get completely like fucking abused. It's almost like some slavery narrative. They just get completely wrecked by their masters, and so it's actually pathetic because when like Harry Potter's showing any sort of like kindness towards this elf, it's just like fucking, oh master, oh you're too kind, like that's what NAVI was doing to you, were they, bro? When they gave you a giant contract, you went, cheers for that giant contract. By the way, by signing this contract, I have essentially, in good faith, implied I want to play for you for 3 years. Me, s1mple, the superstar player that's going to be worth all this enormous deal I've just negotiated. Oh, what's that? Listen, I'll always give you an out, which is you do have that horrible fucked up scenario in your country. Maybe you couldn't go back to your home country, which would affect your playing life, your mentality, etc. Maybe you can't see your family. That all sounds terrible. I actually did a whole video, whole set of separate things about how I have a lot of sympathy for that. But you did do this massive contract, and then for years, even though you've shown a little bit of interest in CS, you've commented many times on wanting to come back, you're just sitting back. Oh, cocktail, delicious, sex on the beach. Oh, and a cocktail, sex on the beach. And another cocktail and some sex on the beach. You see what I'm saying there, guys? You're just been fucking partying the whole time and driving fucking sports cars. How about getting the server? Bro, at a minimum, you do know people like Kobe Bryant and legendary athletes. Some of them, I think Dominic Cruz is retired in MMA now. He still trains. Because he knows that the moment you stop training, it all goes to shit, mate. Then you'll never start again. Then you'll be out of shape the rest of your life. Even if you're not going to be a pro anymore, surely you want to keep like some of your skills sharp. Surely you want to keep that thing you're transcendently good at, like a skill that's active, that's something you can tap into. Maybe you could even do a different esports game. Whatever it is, this base is going to help you. But instead you're letting that atrophy all the way down to the extent that now that you join a team, bro, it's almost 2 years since you left being an actual active pro. Almost 2 years. 2 years literally can be like half a career for a CS pro. And that was a different game. So this whole like whine thing of sort of like, oh, they're trapping me. Bro, then you know what? You're on Twitter, you're on social media, you're saying all this private stuff. You're even like essentially leaking stuff to push things your way. Well, you know what, homie? Go ahead, open that fucking Twitter box up and just type in what your salary is. I don't think there's an NDA that says you're not allowed to say it. I do not believe that will be in your contract. Go ahead and type out, it's hard when you're in jail, and then put a comma, being paid, and then I want to know what the number is. And if that number, by the way, is 5 figures per month, already I don't have that much sympathy for you because you get paid 5 figures to not play CS. Now, yes, NAVI have marketing opportunities. I get all that. But also, if it ends up being 5 figures and the first number's a 2 or a 3, shut the fuck up, my dude. You do realise, you know people like Forrest that you worship, Fallen. If I go to the early years of either their careers in CSGO, especially before the majors, or their careers at the end of 1.6 for people like Forrest, someone like Forrest had to have his team win almost every big tournament in a year, and he got his, 1,200 euros salary from Fnatic or SK. And at the end of the year, if his team won almost every tournament, his total revenue earnings before tax would be something like $25,000, $30,000 for a whole year where he was epically successful. Now you're getting that potentially every month to not play CS. And by the way, Lord forgive me if you were getting your full fucking salary. If you were really getting the 40 to 60k a month and you were whining like this, mate, you still have some serious fucking attitude repair to do in your life if you ever want to be a vaguely reasonable fucking teammate or org employee in this sense. Like, again, I'd be totally on your side if you were like trapped on the bench and it was just that Blade's some asshole and he's become the tyrant. He just doesn't want you to play the team because he wants all the credit. Or if you were grinding like a motherfucker, you're showing your skills, you are playing on load with tier 3 teams. When you get your chances in Falcons and FaZe, you've got your fucking skills prepped, homie. You go there and you murk the tournament. You're like the 5th best tournament playing the entire tournament. Everyone sees it and goes, fuck. It's not just like he's back for a round. s1mple's back, bro. s1mple's ready to be the best. Everyone would want you in a team. Everyone would be on your side. Instead, you just, playing to the cheap seats. Like, oh, I'm fucking trapped. I'm in jail. Come on, FaZe. Do the right thing, mate. Help a brother out. And all the whole time, you're not playing the game. You're not in good shape. You're even essentially admitting yourself, like, well, I would FaZe pay for me. Well, then why the fuck would NAVI just let you go? You know the main value you have to NAVI is your contract, bro. It's the fact that you signed it when you were s1mple. In theory, s1mple's still in there. We saw flashes of him at the major. And so another org that wants both a giant, incredibly marketable, fucking all-time Mount Rushmore level esports figure, who also might one day again be a top 10 player in the world, they can gamble on you. And if they don't want to gamble right now with the buyout, still there's months to go, they can rent you for a month for 6 figures. Sounds like NAVI played it perfectly, mate. At the end, I notice you haven't said anything shitty about them when you've left now, and they've even implied by how it left that it's resolved. I noticed they didn't say BC.Game paid a big buyout, though. Now, by the way, maybe there is a world, I think this would be madness, where NAVI has just released you. I just don't know that I believe it, because why would it be to a casino team? You know what I mean? Surely that would be beyond the pale. I'll even throw this out there. I don't know whether he did this, but I'm just going to put this on the table. Bro, you've been getting millions of dollars. You've been getting enormous amounts of salary the last few years. Can you just pay a part of the buyout? I mean, you're the one who thinks you're going to be the shit, right? You're definitely going to start playing and practicing. And besides, you should be on the stage. Look, go ahead then, homie, contribute. You put up a third of the buyout. You put up a third of the money. That would be a brilliant way to show the team that you're going to sign with that you're really invested. You're going to make that worth your while. You're not going to be the one to... My God, imagine that s1mple. Imagine someone losing money in esports to make this entire endeavor run. You know, the way all the team orgs work, like NAVI. The way it works for the tournament organisers, so why they have to sell it to the Saudis, mate, or take massive sponsorships like Blast does. You do know the only 2 entities in esports that constantly just print money and never lose money. Are you ready? There's 2 groups, s1mple. Game developers like Valve and Riot Games and Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, because they just make all the money from the game, don't they? And don't tell us all how much they make from our efforts. And then there's pro players like you. Even when you're sat not playing the game, you're just stacking cheddar. And then you have the balls to turn around to the people who are losing the money so you can stack cheddar, either playing the game or not playing the game, and claim like they're the ones like imprisoning you. Homie, put me in that contract jail. Are you fucking kidding me? It's fucking mental. I bet you make more in a month than I do in like fucking 3 months in your contract prison. I don't actually know if that's true, to be fair. But I'd have to run the numbers on that one. But I tell you what, I wouldn't be whining. I'll give you that much. Now, I do think the last thing is this. If you were someone else who wasn't s1mple and you'd left the game for a few years, you only had a few glimpses of coming back to competition, and even then it was just like, for a month at a time in teams, you're way behind on the meta. Your weapon isn't as powerful anymore, the AWP, although you always had very good rifles as well. I actually think this move would be a massive gamble. This could actually be how your career ends, because you could go to this team, they won't put a good enough squad around you, they don't have any good results online, you just play so-so, you lose. If you had motivation issues before, you definitely lose your motivation, you get depressed playing a million online games and stupid CCT matches, you get sick of people match fixing and cheating against you, you get sick of fans talking shit every time you have a bad game. If you're anyone else, this could actually kill your career. This could be the end. And you've fucked up and you should maybe have chosen something differently or practiced differently before the phase one. The difference is, this is again where s1mple is an outlier. Because I do think the core factor for me isn't can s1mple do it in this team and get to the end of his contract and go to a big squad. I think that absolutely can happen. The question is this. Does he actually love either playing the game CS2 or competing at the highest level in CS2 anywhere close to what he used to. Because if he has managed to rekindle that love and that desire, I would bet anything he succeeds and does it. And that by the end of the year, he's in a better squad, or he's in a team going to the major, or next year he gets signed to a big team and he walks in with no buyout and he gets his big salary and he's one of the best players again. That is all possible because it was always in this guy's hands. He's one of those people who's so exceptionally talented and had this incredible appetite and tolerance for working hard. He used to love to work hard. That someone like that, I can believe in that all day long. But notice, the key foundation isn't the talent, it's the hard work. The hard work and the discipline combined with the talent is what makes s1mple unbeatable, in my opinion, for anyone. Donk, Ziwu, all of them, unbeatable. But if that latter one isn't there, then all of a sudden NAVI looks smart, don't they? Suddenly FaZe seems like maybe that was the right move. You go and look elsewhere in the scene, and all of a sudden you can see why people are a little bit nervous, why people are a bit scared to commit, because they don't know if he's fully committed. Now, if he is, I think he'll be one of the greatest players ever in CS2. But if he doesn't, maybe we're going to see a similar rerun. I don't forget the people that support me. And in the case of this video, that would be Matt Pugnatio, Rajcula, Jasun, Jensen Goh, Nicky, Tosh, Thorin, and you know who I'm always going to give the biggest shout out to, my boy Jerky's Minion. Do you want to ask a question for my video AMA? Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Maybe you want to find out who the next guest is on one of my interviews that I've already recorded but not yet released. Or maybe you want to take part in one of those fabled long-form discussions where you get to decide the topics. Well, if any of those perks or others tickle your fancy, simply click on the Patreon link in the description box below and put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrilluminati today.